right, guys, welcome to the news today, Nightslight AstroNews. Just going over some news stories. You know the drill with Friday. It's a chill day. We're just like hanging out, going over. It's a slow news week, so we'll maybe be on for like 45 minutes to an hour or something like that. Just cover some of the stuff. And it really looks more like a week where there's some seeds that have been planted. And if you watched my live stream that I did last night, yesterday, we really were talking about these are our last few weeks of calm before things really heat up for the summer and we see a lot of things go down. So just kind of looking at these things that are being planted right now. Like I said, the seeds being planted. So thank you for popping by. And yeah, let's get into it. All right. Well, this week we had a lot of gaming news. That's just my live feed right now. Actually, let me go back to there. What's this? Huh. Save that for later. Uh, well, we had something with. This is just kind of streamer news. This guy Jesse Ridgway. A lot of people might know him as McJuggernuggets. He does like the psycho videos. If you know the meme, the "Daddy Chill" that meme. Those are from his videos. And so him and his girlfriend, they did a video. I think I have it further down. I won't read all of this, but they had a video that they did. I guess you can call it like reaction video or something, where they found out their kid had Down syndrome. They decided to abort the child. And there's even a comment on here from Asmongold, pretty much top Twitch streamer there. And he's saying it's based and stuff, but there was a huge argument around it. Just something interesting to talk about. If you ask me, I mean, I can't say I would do anything different. You know what I mean? I mean, like this is what the comment that you have from Asmongold here. Oh, hey, what's up, PMSO? Really good to see you. This is the comment that you have from Asmongold, saying base. Like, I mean, and you mind you, he's a very controversial kind of triggering person. So but I'm just reading what he said here. Based, I'd kill the kid too. Down syndrome is a lifelong impairment, and it would be better if no one had it. Being able to control and filter out these defects is better for everyone. Common eugenics W. No, I shouldn't be laughing, of course, but no, that's really where I fall on this too. Is it's a hard one. I don't. I'm not someone who necessarily believes in abortion. I like to give that discussion over to the women to have personally, and not really have a viewpoint. But if you're asking me, I don't really believe in abortion. But with something like this, I mean, what kind of life is that for the child? And you can make that argument of, do you, if God gives that to you, was like that was perhaps meant to be in your life, and all the love you would have gotten from that kid, and I'm sure he understands that and believes that. But it's just a hard choice to make. And like I said, I don't. You don't know until you're in that situation what choice you would make. But I can't think that I would make that much of a different choice. Yeah, and then the redheaded libertarian lady. She's on the right wing. You killed your baby because he had Down syndrome and came to X looking for sympathy. And yeah, so this was something going back and forth. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on it, but just something interesting. And then we had this here. This is something I know Alex Jones did a show on this today, and I think it was with this guy. We'll kind of see what he has to say really quick here. But here's just a quote from the clip here, and probably won't watch the whole clip. By the way, Iran's getting ready to conduct a nuclear test. On yesterday's show, Colonel Wilkerson revealed there's a 60 to 80% chance Iran has a nuke. MIT professor Ted Postol agrees. And let's just we'll bring this full screen here.
By the way, Iran's getting ready to conduct a nuclear test, probably. It's about 60% assured now, I think. And it's a long backstory, but we knew it was going to happen. We knew that they had probably reconsidered once the Ayatollah was killed, the way he was killed. And we're going to have a wholly different situation when Iran explodes a weapon and everybody knows that they're a nuclear power. An entirely different situation. Question is, will it be more positive or decidedly negative?
Are you corroborating the rumors that Larry Johnson and Pepe Escobar have also stated that Iran does have a nuclear weapon?
Not just that. Professor Emeritus at MIT, Ted Postol, and I have been talking about this for a long time. And I agree with him. And I did the negotiations up close and personal with North Korea when Kang Sak-ju and Yi-gun turned to our representative in Pyongyang and said, put your economic package away. We already have nuclear weapons. We have 6 to 12 of them. Boy, what a shock that was for Jim Kelly to get that information, and even more so to bring it back to Coleman.
That's interesting there. Like I said, I know Alex Jones, and you can even see up here live on X, Friday Bombshell. CIA insiders confirm Iran has like nuclear weapons, as it goes on to say. But I haven't gotten around to watching that. I'll probably wait for him to put some clips up because I've got some other things on the desk to get through. And then here's like another follow up with this. Not necessarily this on the same channel here, but with Iran. Iran says negotiations have now fallen apart completely, ceasing all messaging. I think it says seizing, but I think they mean ceasing all messaging channels with the U.S. following new U.S. strikes on commercial vessels in southern Iran and the ongoing Israeli military's invasion of southern Lebanon, per Fars. Iran says talks were already fully deadlocked over the U.S. Refusing to release release 24 billion in frozen funds without nuclear concessions in return. Iran is also rejecting Aribaya's claim that Iran agreed to transfer part of its enriched uranium to a third country, calling it incorrect, with nuclear discussions being fundamentally not on the current negotiation agenda. And I mean, stuff that we've already really discussed here. I won't rehash everything and re-go over what I've already discussed, but you know, I think you can really make the argument that the nuclear, it's tough to say, but to me it seems like they just wanted the nuclear material and not to be fully, like, to enrich it to weapons grade but not actually make the weapons. I mean, and you can argue whether or not they were going to, but it seems with everything that we've done now, of course, they feel like that it's not a deterrent to have the nuclear grade or weapons grade nuclear material. And so they're going ahead and making the weapon. Of course, these are just rumors. This first one up here that we were just listening to, just rumors, but that's really what it seems like here. But, you know, ultimately it is in the astrology. This is kind of the stuff that we expected to come forward for those of us who are following the astrology. So is it really a surprise? And maybe this is something that we see. You know, I did go over the Iranian part with my predictions yesterday around the 4th of July conjunction, that Mars-Uranus conjunction. And I love that my friend PMSO in chat, she did add, you know, this is a worldwide thing, and I totally concur too. And so we're not just seeing this, even though this affects the U.S. chart heavily with the Mars-Uranus conjunction and all the other aspects that are going on around that, which we went over. This is something that's going to be really affecting the entire world. And so this is one of the things that could come up, is a nuclear test, something like that, or even just an announcement that they have nuclear weapons. And it's part of the whole changing global hegemony that we're seeing right now. And I always will go back and reference this picture. I've always got it open as a tab here of the way that it looks like we're going to see things start to restructure. It could look a little bit different than this, but the way that we're going to see things really restructure in this new world order, in this fourth turning, if you want to call it that. And that's going to be dealing with, we talked about it, but it's going to be dealing with the turnings. They deal with the Uranus cycles, Uranus doing a full rotation. Now, that's not what it's fully based off of or anything. We'll pull it up here for turning and just do a little bit, but you know, you get these different turning events. First turning, an era of confident expansion, strong institution, social unity, individualism is weak, and community is prioritized. Post-World War II boom, you know, and then we have the 60s, 70s, spiritual exploration, rebellion against the established order. Third turning, and this is going to be in 1980s to the 2000s, a period marked by growing individualism, cynicism, institutional decay, social authority weakens. and fourth turning crisis. And we're moving into this crisis, fourth turning era of destruction and renewal. Society operating system breaks down, and the nation must face a major existential threat that fundamentally reorganizes the government, economy, and civic life. And like I was saying, and you can see that each of these are a period of about 20 to 25 years. You add these four turnings together, and right there you get about a Uranus cycle through the zodiac. So very tied to that. Yeah, PMS. So I do really love this map. It makes sense with the way we're seeing money flows going on, the way we're seeing power restructuring behind the scenes, and I think it's going to really reveal itself soon. And it ties in with a lot of the German stuff I was getting into with the German charts here, as Germany becoming a major hegemon of Europe and showing a lot of strength coming up here in the next 3 years. And you got the Franco-German bloc right here, dominated by Germany. I originally, when I was first going over it, I was thinking it was talking about this part over here, but this is like more Eastern. And this is going to be Poland, Latvia, Lithuania. But Franco-German bloc is going to be this, like all, Italy, Spain, Portugal, France, Germany, a few other countries in the mix there. But it looks like they'll be either uniting as something. And so this will be interesting to do the French chart as well. I'm torn between the French chart I want to do the French chart. I want to do the Japanese chart. I want to do Ukraine. I want to do Russia. Russia's going to have to be a special because I got to go back, just like I did with Germany. I got to go back pretty far on that. But yeah, and then of course Iran over here. So the thing that gets me with the Iran one, though, where I might have a little disagreement with this map here, is I can see them taking over Saudi Arabia and all that too. Like, I'm still less keen on that. I actually think what we'll see is Iran kind of gets a block and allies with Russia, and it says here Russian ally, but we could see Israel actually take over a lot of this land for the Greater Israel Project, and then you get Pax Judaica, which I went over in my Part 3 Trinity of Convergence series as a big part of what's going forward here, because we see that cycle through what you want to call the attack dogs of any empire, which the empire right now is the US. We're seeing these things shift behind the scenes, of course, as I'm saying, but you get that these empires will have their attack dog or have their foreign interest or whatever, but the people who do their wars, and of course we send the resources, we do a lot of the fighting, but you get that same type of relationship with us and Israel, and having that be our spot in the Middle East to kind of maintain the empire. Well, you had something similar with Athens and Sparta. And then, of course, Sparta ends up taking over. And then many historians would argue that Sparta is the precursor of what becomes the Roman Empire, the next hegemon. So, we can really see that with, I kind of personally see that coming up with Israel over here, with taking this whole area of Saudi Arabia. You could even argue Egypt, too, over here. And then the GCC countries, along the coasts here. But we'll see how it all plays out. There's just going to be a lot of chaos going on over there. And we've got a rumor here that President Trump's chief of staff, Susie Wiles, is quietly planning her exit strategy after November's midterm elections. And but the White House says that these reports are false. So I just think that's something interesting there as far as Susie Wiles goes. Geez, what do you even say? I know she had this magazine. What was it? Vogue magazine article that came out and really just raked her over the coals, and deservedly so too. I think that she was a great campaign manager. If you were looking to get that same energy of Steve Bannon, that really won Trump the 2016 election. It was kind of a back to basics things, but you saw with Susie Wiles, there's no follow through. At least with Bannon, he was able to still have a relationship with Trump for a while afterwards, even after there was the ousting and all that stuff, and some back and forth. It's more rumor, but it kind of seems like that based off what you saw, and that he was able to follow through on campaign promises in that first administration. Not all of them, of course, but on some of them, or at least give the people their red meat. But with Susie Wiles, you see there's a totally different vibe, this elitism vibe, this country is up for auction vibe, and all that, and they really don't care. And I think when you look at Susie Wiles here too, I'm someone who's really big on physiognomy. It's called physiognomy, which really is it's the study of just how you look, especially like over the years, once you hit adulthood and all that stuff, but just like the way your face rests and the way that you really just look, it has to deal a lot with your internal system. There's certain expressions that will express themselves based on your state of mind, on all that stuff. And I think you can kind of just see like, do I need to add much more with that? You know what I mean? I mean, look at this. Is this really who we want, being so close to the presidency? um, but ultimately, do we even want what's going on with the presidency now? But that gets into a bigger discussion. We got some gaming news here. I won't really get into that. Lots of new gaming releases: Alien Isolation 2, Guild Wars 3, a lot of anticipated stuff. A little bit of controversy in the gaming community because a lot of these games went into development with the expectation that Kamala was going to win. And now that she hasn't, there's a lot of wokeness in these games, especially another one, which I'll scroll by in a moment, which is God of War. Le Fay is what it's called, and there's a huge controversy around that one in particular. And then this is actually that video here of, I'm just going to play like 30 seconds of it, of the reaction that streamer I was talking about to finding out that their kid has Down syndrome.
Let me see. I can't see it.
It says abnormal insight result. Follow-up showed 3 chromosome 21 signals consistent with trisomy 21 Down syndrome. Genetic counseling is recommended. Pattern consistent with trisomy 21.
And I'm not going to make us sit there and watch her cry or anything, but that's just so you have like a little bit of video that goes with it. And yeah, that's like the whole controversy around that. And then I even saved this one here, which is Milo Yiannopoulos, political right winger, apparently former gay guy, apparently. But like, just this is kind of how crazy it's been getting on Twitter here. Like, oh, how does he look now after? This is from way back when they first got the first ultrasound, and now he's quote tweeting that, saying, how does he look now after they got the abortion? Which is just kind of like, okay, that's just not necessary. And then I didn't want to miss this one here. This was actually probably the biggest news story of today. You could argue maybe it's the bombshell of the Iran having nuclear weapons, or like about to be operational with them. It's kind of a tie between that and this, but artificial intelligence company Anthropic has suggested a global pause on developing the most powerful AI systems, as the latest models are beginning to show signs that they could escape human control. And just to get more particular on this, I listened to a little segment on this today. Really what they're arguing is having actual, it's funny because they wanted to put in the AI moratorium, all of these tech companies, including Anthropic, back during the big beautiful bill. They wanted this AI moratorium. Oh, no restrictions on AI, no government control on AI or anything. And thank God that didn't make it into the final draft, because now those same companies are like, whoa, hold on a second, it's kind of getting beyond our control here. And what they mean particularly is that AI's ability is about to surpass the human's ability to be able to add updates, correct it, make it better, refine it, and all that. And so it's going to be able to just do that on its own, and it will spiral out of not really out of control necessarily, although probably, but more spiral exponentially in its advancement. And then so that's even something else we could see around that 4th of July. And I went over this in my predictions. Is like a huge advancement with technology, with artificial intelligence, with something like that. We could totally see that, and this could be where I mentioned it could be where AGI comes in, which I believe is like artificial general intelligence, which is the first. It would be the first sentient type of AI, because right now we're dealing with what would it be called? Large language models. It could be something like that, or it could just be even this moment here where they're able to develop themselves, the AI, and then there's a lot of controversy around that. So we'll kind of keep that under our belt and stay posted with it. And then, yeah, this is another one. So if you really want to see here just how controlled by Israel this government is, besides the integration we're doing with the military, which I'll get into. Uh, um, and there's like some kind of asterisks with that too, but uh, and I'm just for YouTube's sake, I'm just reading from the tweet here. But Jewish niggas be like, we don't control the government, then ban Sean Strickland from the White House. And then this is off of like a bigger tweet. UFC champion Sean Strickland says he is banned from attending the UFC White House event because he made fun of Israel and Epstein. And so, yeah, like that's really the whole thing is he was slated to be there at the UFC event. And then all of a sudden he starts criticizing Israel and he can't go there. And that's just, it's insane. We're talking about a foreign government. I can understand if you're talking about our government, I still wouldn't even agree with that. But I can at least understand it more. But we're talking about a foreign government here. And so this really just shows you that we've got an occupied government. We've got a captured government and nation. And it really is about to come to some type of head because people are just really over it at this point. I mean, everything is just revolving around Israel, not being critical of Israel. It would be different if it was like in the guise of George W. Bush, where essentially we went in there for Israel back then, but it wasn't so obvious, and I would even argue the censorship around Israel stuff back during those times was much stricter, but like people, they nipped it in the bud so fast, like no one really noticed until these last few years. But it's not even like that though, where everything is revolving around Israel. It was more around the foreign policy, and because of the intelligence we got from Israel, from Netanyahu, which was faulty intelligence. And so they continue to give us bad intelligence. And that was like something apparently that came up with during Trump's phone call that he had, which I think I have that saved. But if not, I'll try to remember to get into that phone call there with Trump and Netanyahu. But it may have just been leaked out by the admin. He did confirm it in an interview, but still, it's like, it makes him look awfully good for someone who's simping constantly for Israel, Trump that is. This was something that was kind of interesting here. I'm not even saying I agree with this, but this is why I like astrology personally, because we're able to really keep track of the seasons, of everything based off of the degrees of things, declinations, all that. So I kind of don't, so like I said, I don't necessarily agree with this. I do feel like time, when you're just looking at a stopwatch like this, like time is longer, but I think that has more to do with like solar flares and that kind of stuff like that, like in our perception, rather than time actually being longer and them actually altering clocks. Because this is the argument in this, is that there are altering, well, the new sun replaced the old sun with the old time, the slower time how we remembered it before, with the yellow sun. This is kind of a thing too that I know in one of my communities, astrology communities, have been talking about, is like the old sun, how it used to be more yellow. Even older events that were happening in like the late 1800s too. There was I'm actually going to look that up really quick and then I'll double back to this. There was this event that happened. What was it? Sky event 1800s, right? And it would be like, I mean, I guess you could maybe say it's the Carrington event. Yeah. 1859. So, but this is what people taught, like this even being, you hear what people say about the stars, the weather, the environment, all sorts of things during this time versus after. And my astrology teacher, Robert Phoenix, was talking about this. I don't get around to his shows as often these days, but there was one that I managed to make it to, one of his Rumble streams, and he was talking about how there was this old diary that he was reading from, that it had a lady who was alive during this time, and she talked about how everyone went, into their cellars, and the sky just looked wild and had all these colors, and not even like aurora event, but like sky on fire, essentially. I'm probably butchering the story here, but it's something you can look deeper into. Of course, global auroras too, and all that. But and the only technological disruption was the telegraph network. But this is something, we need to be on the lookout for, because we're overdue for another event like this. All of the any of the good geo weather people will talk about this. I think specifically of Space Weather News, or formerly Suspicious Observers was his name, and he's been doing this for for like 15 years plus, since YouTube has really been around. But anyway, I bring this up because you do have these events, and it seems like there was this other shift around the 70s too. Not that I'm saying there was an event around then, but when you look at the pictures from the 70s, it's just like the sun seems different. The videos that you watch too, it seems like the sun was different than it is now. So I do agree with that part. But when we're looking at, like, this person's argument is that our seasons are thrown off, and it's like, well, I mean, when you are looking at astrology, it's like, no, our seasons seem to be pretty okay. If the weather is seeming odd, I think it has to do more with climate change. And I'm not talking about global warming. I'm talking about, which is, I guess, a part of climate change. But the thing I'm trying to say is the climate is changing on all of the planets, not just on Earth. So there is something solar that is in the mix here. So I think they have like half of that, right? Just my opinion, though, personally. Kind of a little tangent to go on there. Yeah, and so we'll look at the base tweet on this first. The House Armed Services Committee will vote today, and this was yesterday, actually. Will vote today on whether to strike Section 224 of the NDAA, which would integrate the most sensitive technologies within the U.S. defense infrastructure with those of the Israeli military. And then we've got here Cenk Uygur, who is on the left, and I like him and Anna Kasparian on the left because, of course, they're critical of Israel, and they seem to have pretty much held with the leftist point of view that I come from when I was much younger, and not gotten involved with all this insane stuff that we've seen from the far left. This idea of merging our military with Israeli military is insane. It's borderline treason. They would have to get to have all our military technology and capabilities for free. We spend trillions on that. Israelis have stolen our military secrets before. Now we're giving it away, and they have stolen our military secrets before, quite a few different instances. But mainly the one that comes to mind is thinking of the time of around JFK, where it was like that. It was that first wave, and there's a huge thread that you can follow on nuclear secrets. So I talked about this. I think this was my Germany stream. I was talking about this, but how the actual delivery systems were primarily made by Germany for Israel. And it's something that's really been swept under the rug, but it is, there's news articles you can look at with this that were really quiet and slipped through the cracks for a while, but have been found by this guy named Joseph P. Farrell, one of my favorite scholars. And so you have that aspect of it. But in terms of the nuclear secrets, there was a huge thing going on. This gets into some stuff that was happening up in Maine with some Jewish guy that had ties to, I guess, the scientific community and the Kennedy administration, and was able to funnel out some nuclear secrets. And that's a whole long story, a thread that we could spend an hour going on, so I won't. But those are things that you can look into. And Dark Journalist covers this really well on YouTube. And then his name is Daniel List. Just in, JP Morgan, Citi, and major U.S. banks to launch new tokenized deposit system to compete with crypto. And so this is just a further thread on what I've been talking about, and what my prediction was that we got into with that executive order that went into effect, my successful prediction on the new moon in Taurus, and that we would see the first step on something that's going to relate with a financial system that is, I don't want to say coming in October, around towards the end of the year like that, because that makes it sound like it's going to be fully in, but we will see the first people being able to onboard to that. And I think it will be because of some financial things that we see essentially happen over the summer. And then, so this was interesting. This was a reply to one of Owen Schroyer's threads, but this is, I believe this is from Q, like a QAnon kind of thing. Although Q people will differentiate Q and QAnon. And I'm not saying I'm a Q person, but this is kind of the running joke that we have over in Owen Schroyer's community, is that with how terrible things are and how in your face the Israel stuff is with this administration, Q almost makes more sense than what we're seeing. And the Q info specifies that saving Israel from for last and all that. And it's like, okay, well, we're waiting, because it's kind of like, whoa. But I'll read this here. This is one of the Q. I think this is a Q post. I remember this, especially this first paragraph. So like, hey, if we end up saying that Q is correct, I think personally it's like a psyop to get us to be complacent and allow these things to come in, like the Golden Dome, like Israel's takeover of our country, which you can see through the integration of the military and such. Well, I should say full takeover, because they've already pretty much taken over. But let me go ahead and read this. Nothing about the current political situation we are currently experiencing in the West will ever make sense to you unless you first understand that you live under foreign occupation and are thus subject to the rules of the occupiers. If you do not start from there, you will search for multiple explanations and rationalizations for your society's misery and shortcomings that will ultimately lead you nowhere. The thing is, your enemy has no interest in a so-called victory over you, because they already won, long ago, before most of you were even born. Now, the entirety of their actions is aimed at a single goal: humiliation. Humiliation robs you of your humanity, your will, your reason to fight on. Humiliation takes everything from you, and it even robs you of being worthy of empathy. It has been used by every occupier in history, and it's our natural primal understanding of defeat. The Ottoman practice of Kochek is a prime example. Similar to the concept of drag kids in modern America, Kocheks were a combination of dancers, clowns, and prostitutes. They were young, non-Muslim boys taken from their parents and trained to be willful sexual objects and entertainers for the Ottoman Turks. The goal was to have the occupied think, if we allow that to be done to our boys, what else can they do? The answer is anything. It is full spectrum domination of the minds of the conquered. Your enemy doesn't want gay pride parades in your street, drag queens in your libraries, your son's penis mutilated and drip-fed estrogen from birth, your parents dead from opioids and cancer, your daughter race mixing, your meat replaced with bugs, and all your media laughs, well, because they think it's for everyone's benefit or for anyone's benefit. They want it because they know you don't want it, but can't stop them, and they want to humiliate you. There isn't any other reason, and that's exactly what they are doing. And so, shoot, I can't really disagree with a lot in there. In theory, of course, there's like smaller things in there, but what I see, the overall general message, I can't really disagree with a lot. And I think this is why people find the Q movement to be so enticing. And there is something about it. Even the people who have studied it and do think it's a psyop, but have studied it extensively, are thinking, there is something to the Q movement in terms of where it came from. They had access to technology, if you want to call it that. And when I say technology, I'm meaning a type of network infrastructure. Actually, the person who's coming to mind who talks about this is that scholar I mentioned, Joseph P. Farrell, that they've had access to a type of intelligence, tech infrastructure apparatus, and AI before AI was even like really a big thing, large language models, etc. So yeah, it's just interesting. It's something to ponder, but I thought that was worth reading. This is Marjorie Taylor Greene talking about the section 224 of the 2027 NDA. So, United States of America is a sovereign nation. Section 224 of the NDA, National Defense Authorization Act, or NDAA, I guess, because it's the act they're pushing through, must be removed. Our military should not be integrated in any capacity with a foreign country's military, nor should we be funding it. And it's unfortunate because she could be another vote against it, but she ended up You know, is she still? I know that she stepped down, but is she still serving until the midterms or something? I forget. U.S. Congressman, excuse me, U.S. Congressman Ro Khanna says it was Netanyahu himself who told members of Congress to insert Section 224, the provision merging the U.S. and Israeli militaries, into the NDAA. So that's yeah. So that's kind of what we got going on now. I think they so when we were going back here, they voted today. I believe that they passed it when they've. I believe they passed it because they voted yesterday on it. Yeah, here it is. I saved the tweet. So, the House Armed Services Committee just voted to merge the U.S. military with Israel's, and then this is this guy's response: "We live in a fully occupied nation, fully occupied, full blown treason. There is no voting our way out of this." And yeah, another person. These fuckers actually merged the American and Israeli militaries. Does everyone know what that fucking means? And like I said, this is something I need to look deeper into. Like it doesn't. I would be surprised if it was actually like a full military merge, but I know it's having to deal with the technology. So having access and then also has to deal with. I heard that there's a monetary aspect of it too, where they're not going to need for military action, us just sending the money all the time. The merging allows them to keep taking the money. And so this is like a really, this is a funny part too. I find to be hilarious with this because you had like, oh, okay, well, Israel gets the picture, guys, and they're totally gonna, pull back a little bit on the funding that we're giving them. And they were positioning and even saying, Netanyahu himself saying, oh, well, we're not really, concerned with we have a good economy. We're not really concerned with getting money from the U.S. anymore, and we're gonna kind of reel it back in. I'm paraphrasing, of course, but it was essentially them feeling which way the wind was blowing and being like, oh well, maybe we can get this thing passed and have funding up until this date, this year, and stuff like that. But then we'll hold off and we can't really continue to rely on that American support and all that. But it's like, okay, then why are you passing this? Because this is going to allow us to be a piggy bank without even needing to formalize sending them the money, which was going to go through anyway because our Congress is controlled by Israel. But this really just gets rid of all the formalities with it, and they can just spend as much as they want. Really, technically, this is my understanding of it from what I looked into so far, and it's just it's wild, and but I'm always happy to see these things like this because things need to get way worse before they can get better. And so this is why you don't see me getting all emotional on these things or heated on these things, because it's just like I've got Uranian energy. I like the chaos. I like things getting worse so that the revolution can occur. You know what I mean? And that's of course a revolution in Minecraft, hypothetical of course, but you know what I mean when a non-violent revolution is what I'm saying. This was a good one here. Never forget, this is a little bit smaller here, but I know there's like, let me, okay. Yeah, so this is when they first added the, what is it, the geolocations, and when people were able to, like when people joined where they are based out of, this is what you had. And I was on Twitter that day, and I remember, and so people try to say this is fake. This is not fake. I went and checked it myself, and with a lot of other ones too. And like I as far as I know, I don't think I'm getting confused. I think I would remember something like this. You know what I mean? I literally remember doing it. But this literally, the account was made for Homeland Security, for our Homeland Security in Tel Aviv. So that kind of tells you, and this is back in 2008, guys. Okay, so we've had this foreign occupation of our government for a long time. It's just becoming very apparent now. The only question is what's going to be done about it. What energies are going to come in right now that are going to allow us to make this change. And this gets into the astrology that we've been talking about, this trinity of convergence, particularly Pluto and Aquarius, and then even Uranus and Gemini. Uranus and Gemini would be the curveball. It would be the technology that allows us to mobilize against this. And Pluto and Aquarius is going to be the power of the masses coming together, that kind of stuff. At least hopefully, because this can also be power over the masses. And this is where that control grid energy comes in, where we're dealing with that Aries energy. That's the Neptune Aries, but more specifically the Saturn Aries, which deals with the whole control grid and aspecting in there with that Uranus Gemini too. These aspects that we're getting, especially this year. And so is that something that we see happening over the summer, or the first steps of it with all these data centers? Now we've got something. Now we were kind of a little heavy for a little bit. We've got something just a little bit on the funnier side for you guys. This kid making sure he maintains his aura and his street cred after getting slashed in the neck by someone. And I just gotta appreciate how badass this kid is.
Situational awareness, as they call it. I mean, I think, yeah, but I don't think it should have to be like that, you know? Like, it's kind of dumb. Lori, Mom, I bet you are protective
we
mom
don't
out there.
know. Yes, of course, of course. I mean, he was only 11 feet away from me when this happened, maybe 12 feet. It's absolutely horrifying. And he's had nightmares. We don't know. Hopefully,
He's like, hey, Mom.
nothing more to come. And his little brother, who's 11, who saw everything as well, seeing his brother's neck split open. You know, there might be some trauma, and we're very upset.
Well, I can't even imagine.
Oh my
Situational
goodness.
awareness.
Had to bring up the energy a little bit. Can't go too into the weeds. I know I like going into the weeds. You guys know my energy. Like, hey, I love the chaos, but you know, I like to level things out a little bit for people. Israel is upset. This is from Theo Vaughn, by the way. Something he said recently. Israel is obsessed with control, so they can use American soldiers like war machines to feed their bloodlust. They're a satanic regime who just want to cause pain, and it really gets it. We could even talk about the synagogue of Satan and all that kind of stuff too. I'm sure that will be that's me using an anti-Semitic trope. Apparently, you know, like I could be part Jewish and it would still be an anti-Semitic trope, and then at that point I'd be a self-hating Jew. You know, I kind of know the whole script because I'm used to calling out the black community for the bad behavior that we see, and no fix to that behavior, no path forward on fixing that behavior. So I'm used to being called a like self-hating black or an Uncle Tom or all of these things. You know, I'm very used to it. So it's just, you know, and a part of me kind of likes it because it is the Uranian nature that I have, the Aquarian in me, where I really like to be that rebel, and I like the whole world to like kind of be against me. Not really necessarily the whole world, but and I think a perfect meme for this is right here. Yeah, this right here, this picture, this is me in my element, okay? Having an opinion that's controversial, that has everyone against me. That's like what that's what I live for, if I'm being honest. So people who know me, like once they know this about me, then a lot of things make more sense and they can deal with me more as an individual. So this was kind of a funny one. Poor kid. Oh my goodness. Oh my gosh. So yeah, this robot clown was doing like jujitsu or something like that, a display, and then accidentally hit the kid. I'm not sure what country this is in though. Everyone here looks Asian, so either this is like in some Chinatown, but with all the colors like this, because these aren't gay pride colors or anything. This looks more like it's in Thailand or something like that, just based off the coloring. Like that's very typical to have those kind of colors all around, especially at festivals. But just interesting. But then again, you know, I mean, this does look like if I'm getting my robots correct, if I'm getting my clankers correct, this I think is Elon, one of Elon's models. So tough to say, but so this astrologer, Starseed Astrology, these days I don't like him, but I still stay following him because every once in a while he has some decent stuff that comes out. And if I can, hopefully when I read this, I can remember right, because I did have a small caveat of something I didn't necessarily agree with. But when Uranus retrogrades in Gemini, the people who think that AI will make them God will be humbled by God. This time period starts in September. And so I think when you're using planets like this, I remember what it is. When you're using planets like this, I think that's a little bit too broad, because how many Uranus retrogrades are we going to have in Gemini? It's a bit too broad to say, like, I mean, you can argue that this is the first retro. Well, it's not even the first retrograde in Gemini. It's the first retrograde in Gemini where it's going to stay in the sign and not going to, retrograde out and ingress into Taurus again, but, or regress rather. But like what I would argue is this has to deal more with North Node Aquarius, South Node Leo. I think that you get much more of the dynamic with North Node Aquarius, South Node Leo of this. So like technically, I think the prediction's right, but the preface of the prediction I think is kind of like not necessarily correct, or what I personally would use. I just, with outer planets that are, especially one that's going to be for like 7 years in one sign, it's a bit tougher to really pin down and make a prediction. And you're already dealing with Uranus in general, which is hard to predict off of, especially in Gemini. This was interesting. Now, this guy's name is Parody Jeff, so let's actually look at this here, because this might just be a parody. But people weren't saying that this isn't true. So take this with a grain of salt. This may not be true. It might just be a parody. It's satire account, so it's probably not true. But can you imagine if Erica Kirk was hosting the White House Fight Night? That would be crazy. But yeah, and remember that's coming up June 14th, guys, too. So that's going to be on a Gemini new moon. So just be aware of that. There's something going on there. And that's probably the next thing I'm going to look at here sometime this week and make the video on that. So I haven't even really, I glanced at the chart before, but I haven't gotten any predictions really down for that yet. It'll be interesting. The placements are going to be, I don't even know where that moon is going to fall. It won't be within orb of Uranus, so at least we have that going for us. But it's going to be something informational. And, we're still under the background energy of the Sagittarian full moon right here. And so really my prediction for that is something coming out that really causes a shift in our belief systems, whether it's in personal life, but also on the just on the world stage. And for that, I'm still waiting to see something that I think qualifies for that, but I really think we can kind of see on Monday here, especially with those things going on in the market too. There's this merger between Tesla and SpaceX that's going on. I think this is why we saw big pullbacks today in the market, just getting ready for people investing into that, because it hasn't opened. I think it opens on Monday, if I remember right, that merger. And it's around like 150. I don't know the exact, it might be 161 or something like that, the exact number for what it's starting at. And even conservative estimates have that within, like, whether the first day or first couple days getting up to 300. But you never really know with these markets and how manipulated they are right now, what is going to be a bull trap. So but just that's something that could have something going on around it. And then this was another thing here. Maybe the video is on here, but the New York City is investigating a bizarre sighting of people appearing to pop in and out of the underground sewer system, with police now investigating. And there was a video for this. This is, of course, an older video. This was the New York tunnels, Jewish tunnels that people call them. Oh, excuse me. Oh, God, tunnel Jews last time this happened. Wonder if it's Jews again or related. Here we go. Here's the video. So this was caught on CCTV cam in New York. This was on the 28th of May. So you have these guys that are getting out. It's not just one person. There's a few guys that get out. All look like they were well equipped to be in there. They've got their headlamps on. So you've got three guys getting out. So that's the shot. They're moving away from the shot. They're coming into this frame, I believe. Or is this might be a different angle. Okay, that's a different angle. But what you can see later on, unless they've got the actual video, No, it doesn't look like it. There's another angle that it was recorded from where you see them actually change their clothes. Really good. They take their backpacks off, they change their clothes, take off the headlamps and stuff, and then just go about their business. And that's creepy. Also, I would argue very Pluto and Aquarius, which makes you wonder about if there'll be another Jewish connection to this, because that whole Pluto and Aquarius, the undercurrent and all that. This is why I tied Pluto and Aquarius to the Jewish eschatology, the Jewish end times prophecies, and the religion just as a whole on a looser scale, because you get these tie-ins that are really interesting. So but that's very Pluto in Aquarius there, coming out of the manholes and stuff like that, and then these things actually being noticed, because you can say these things were happening before Pluto and Aquarius, but now it's coming to the surface. This undercurrent is coming to the surface, being seen by the people. All right. Yeah, and so here, just going off of that same Iranian thread, International Atomic Energy Agency believes Iran's nuclear risks are now higher than before the Iran war began on February 28th. And, of course, Iran threat increased. This is Owen Schroyer. Iran threat increased, straight, closed. No new wars, new war. American soldiers dead, 13. There's that number 13. Cost around 50 billion. Deep state arrests, 0. So that's really the state of the Trump administration right now. So yeah, I thought this would be really interesting for us to watch. This is a flashback clip. I remember watching this though. Amazing deep dive that Nick Fuentes did on Israel's endgame for the Middle East trade routes. And so this will tie in beautifully to this map that I'm always showing. But remember, I gave that differentiation of this area actually being controlled by Israel, just this area here, not Iran in general, although that's what Israel wants. So let's take a look here.
The entire Middle East will fall to Israel. And then what will happen is this. The United States wants to pivot to the Pacific to confront China. We recognize that all the action in the 21st century is going to happen here, not here. All the action in the 21st century is going to be India, China, Vietnam, Indonesia, Japan, South Korea, the Asian tigers. And to some extent, it's going to be in Central Africa, because that's where the critical minerals are. To some extent, it'll be in South and Central America. That's where trade war is happening. We want to leave the Middle East. How do we leave the Middle East? We have to hand off our responsibilities to our allies and partners. So we're going to arm Israel and Saudi Arabia to the teeth. And we're going to give Israel and Saudi Arabia control over the entire region. But Saudi Arabia is a very fragile state. It's a country of foreign workers. It's a country of a restive population. It's a fragile, hereditary monarchy from 100 years ago. Saudi Arabia could never resist Israel, even if they wanted to. If Israel could take out Iran, they could take out any one of these fragile Gulf monarchies, any one of these countries. That means that Israel will dominate the entire region. And that means that all the trade that goes through the Red Sea, all the trade that goes through the Persian Gulf, all of the Belt and Road Initiative, ports and highways and rail, all of the India, Middle East, Europe corridor infrastructure, it will all go through a region controlled by Israel. All the trade from Africa, Asia, and Europe that has to go through water or land routes in this region, it's going to be going over Israeli soil. It's all going to be going over Israeli clay. That's their end game. That's the big picture. They want to dominate the region, profit from all the trade. They will profit from China and the United States, from BRICS and the Abraham Alliance. That is the next phase of development. That's how they go from not even a country surrounded by enemies to every country has been destroyed and pacified to total regional hegemony over the Middle East.
Yeah, well, and so you see how well that this ties in with exactly, and it's so funny because I didn't even watch this when I saw it but I remembered it. I'm like, oh, I'll save this for the stream, like this was days ago. But you see with the way that he laid it out, and this is exactly what I've been thinking with what's going on here too, is I've said before, like over and over again, that the whole idea is that we're trying to pull out and give control to Israel of like the Saudi Arabia. I remember earlier, but and like I said, I hadn't even watched this yet. I just had it in my memory a little bit, but I like forgot that he even got that specific with it. But I was like circling this whole area here with Saudi Arabia and everything, and then saying that Israel will take control of that, and you see that he lays that out, and really in terms of geopolitical coverage right now, I haven't found someone who covers as well as Nick does too, because he's willing to address the Israel problem, if you want to call it that. And so that's really the thing here. But well, the question is, does Iran fall to Israel, or do they, connect with Russia, essentially become that Russian ally and are able to get power behind them too? And I hear some conflicting things about Russia's relationship with Israel, but I think their relationship with Israel just goes as far as is required to be able to work within the society and everything. And so this gets into the whole Pax Judaica thing I was talking about, of them really becoming a new global superpower, because we're going to hand off that control of that area if Israel isn't done looting us first, because they want to merge militaries like crazy. So very fascinating there. Cop arrested for allegedly pointing gun at fellow officer who microwaved fish at police station. I saved this because I'm gonna be honest, guys. I'm siding with the cop who pointed the gun at the fellow officer. I mean, who would microwave fish in a workplace microwave? That's just I mean, come on, man. So free him, okay? Free this guy. Now, I don't know if he's like necessarily arrested and fired. So yeah, but obviously I'm just being funny, but. We're kind of reaching like the end of this, and we'll the end of really what I've got here. But this was a bigger thing. Well, not necessarily this, but we'll talk about this right here too. New York Post reports that 34-year-old Hassan Piker is consumed with his private life as a sex pervert, receiving nudes and from unverified fans, visiting brothels in Germany to have sex, allegedly with a 15-year-old. This is kind of older news, and dedicating an entire laptop to porn usage. Piker was recently barred from the UK for his extremist views and is under investigation by the US for his ties to the adversarial Cuban government and to the CCP. Yeah, and so we kind of, I think I might have went over that in the last, but if not, we'll kind of see here. I think I have some stuff further down. Piker, who grew up as a chubby, perverted boy in a repressed culture, was able to benefit, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it just goes on to talk about that, but I find this funny, especially, it may not be in this one. Yeah, it's not in this one, but there's even like a ranking system he gives to women. So it's just funny because of how liberal he is. And I would use that term extremely loosely here because he's actually far left. He has identified himself as being a member of the Democratic Socialist Party. So yeah, like he's essentially, and it's so funny because like, what is it, the Democratic Socialists of America, the DCA or something, I think is what it is. But it's just hilarious because I don't even view them as being like real socialists too. The actual socialists that I listen to on my thing that I listen to is called Socialism Saturday with Karlin Borchenko, amazing political analyst on the far left. When we are listening to these live get-togethers of these socialists in all these different parties, and I use the word socialist as an umbrella term because they use it as an umbrella term for socialism, Marxism, and communism. They use these terms interchangeably, so it's best that, like, even though if you want to know the differentiation between those, understand that those are differentiations that we as people on the left, the center, and the right, and even the far right are using amongst ourselves, and they aren't using those amongst themselves. So it's very important to understand that. So I'm using that as an umbrella term, so socialists like they do. But it's so funny that someone like him that vibes with all this stuff like a fake socialist, so really just someone on the far left, is ranking women like this, is this much of a, what he would call, in his own words, under his own standards, a misogynist. This was interesting. Chief Exorcist of Washington has been fired for his statements on demons and UFOs. Statement from Cardinal Robin McElroy, Archbishop of Washington, on Monsignor Stephen Rossetti. The Archdiocese of Washington announced today that Robert Cardinal McElroy has remove Monsignor Stephen Rossetti, a priest of the Diocese of Syracuse, New York, as an exorcist of the Archdiocese of Washington, and ended all affiliation between the Archdiocese and St. Michael at the St. Michael Center for Spiritual Renewal located in Washington, D.C. So this is like interesting. This kind of gets into what we've been talking about with the stuff that's coming in with religion, alien god religion, and really what's going to be out of this alien stuff we see coming forward in disclosure, how this is going to, I'm not going to say restructure religion, but there's going to be kind of this restructuring of the footing that religion has. Although you can argue there will be a restructuring of religion too. That's definitely an argument you can make. This was interesting. Tucker Carlson finally talking a little bit on race politics, because it's important, because people are going to be talking about it. You can say like, oh my gosh, why does everything have to be about race, and why are we like talking about race, and oh my gosh, and like I don't see race, and blah 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 blah. But it's just like, race is real. There are statistics and demographics that go along with race, and there's something they need to be addressed and discussed, and we need to be able to have these open like conversations about them. And on some level, kind of cheering for Russell, or Tucker rather, talking about this, but he even still was like tiptoeing around the whole thing. So it's just like ridiculous when anyone on the left is already calling Tucker Carlson a racist. It's just kind of like, you might as well go full Monty with that, you know. But so I guess there's a little criticism I have with that, but at least like that ball is moving forward. And I wonder if this is because I do tie him to CIA. I see when there are certain initiatives going forward with CIA, because his dad was running Real Voice of America, which was, you know, it was tied in with the CIA. He was running it for the CIA. Tucker has even said himself he found out after his dad died, which he really knew before, but he found out after his dad died. That's his story, that his dad was in the CIA. So this is all confirmed stuff. This is not hearsay. It's so you just got to know, like, when he's coming out with something. And so what I think is that there's going to be this push by the CIA for race wars and that kind of stuff. So let me actually put this in here. Carmelo Anthony, because we have this Carmelo Anthony trial that just started. Oh God, Jesus. Okay. Oh, Jesus Christ. Prosecutors say surveillance footage in the Carmelo Anthony trial contradicts key parts of the defense's narrative. The defense would be Carmelo. Jurors also heard testimony that Austin Metcalf was helping run events set up that day. The facts are starting to speak for themselves. And it looks like the jury selection they did to, I guess you can say, favors Austin Metcalf. But the term is going to be, it favors him because Carmelo Anthony is like not going to get off or whatever. But the way I'm seeing the trial unfold right now, with what I've learned about from the these first like 2 days of it, and really the first day when I said it starts tomorrow, because I said that like yesterday that it starts tomorrow. It had already like technically started, but it was like the first day, which there's not a lot happening, and it's like the deliberations and jury selection, that kind of juror selection rather. That kind of stuff, and then it kind of really started rolling today. But yeah, the interesting thing though is I think, I mean, look what happened with, and I brought this up before, but like the Black Lives Matter protests, like all the destruction that happened. No matter which side of the aisle you sit on this, like there was a lot of damage that happened. Okay, and we all know who caused the damage, you know. So I don't think you can go and say that there were right wingers, and I'm so over right and left guys. So just like, I'm just being fair. Okay. I don't think anyone can sit around and say that right wingers were the ones causing the damage in the city of Minneapolis that was caused. Like, you know, that was people protesting on the left wing, you know, a lot of like black people. Sorry. I mean, obviously there's going to be white people there. There's going to be all sorts of races there, but like, let's kind of just look at everything. And we won't even like start to dig into the funding that was behind it, all this stuff. And I'm not one of those people who's like, oh, George Soros and stuff like that, because remember, I do follow the far left. And so the funding did come from there. And they do their own funding. They're able to raise that own funding. They're really good at funding things. You know, we can't put everything on, oh, it's just George Soros. But what was I going to say? Oh, yeah, but you can kind of see with that what happened. So, like, the thing is, when the black community doesn't get their way, and I just gave you the prime example, this thing, like, shit gets broken, okay? Like, that's what happens, is there's destruction that happens. I think I gave a good enough example, and I can give other examples, too. You know, like, there was what were the riots that happened, where they started looting TVs? That was over, oh gosh, this is like when I was way younger, so I'm not really remembering it as well, but it's like another example. What was it? Let's try AI. Riots where people looted TVs. There's that one, 2020. The Los Angeles riots, that's right. So that's even like another, the Rodney King riots. So that's even just like another case. So you see, like, the thing is, when I'm seeing all this kind of charged race stuff come in by people I've identified in different camps, especially CIA, but other camps too, that are here to sow division, I think that the coverage you're going to get is going to be able to, like, heavily trigger the black community, and then we're going to see more of these riots when Carmelo Anthony gets put away. But, like, anyone who's looked at this case with Carmelo Anthony and Austin Metcalf, I mean, Carmelo Anthony killed someone in cold blood. And then literally, through what you've seen come forward, it was racially motivated, but we only are allowed to think that it's racially motivated when it's white on black and not the other way around. This is like where the issue comes in. So I think that you really can, all you have to do is have him be put away. And then all of these riots, these protests, which are going to turn into riots, are going to break out. Because if it was the other way around, you have to think about it from a top-down view. If you're wanting to sow racial division, how are you going to do this? If you want to sow even, like, I'm not going to go as far as to say like a race war, because I think they try to do this and it always, like, falls a little bit flat and they can't quite get it to land. But if you want to sow something like, say, a race war, and you're like the people, the elites, the people in power, are you going to allow Carmelo Anthony to get off? No, because, like, white people, what are they going to do? They're going to protest. They're not going to destroy everything. But if you put away the black person, black people will go out and they will cause riots. This has been proven time and time again. So I think that's really what we're going to see with the conviction. I need to go and look at the chart of the trial starting and stuff like that. That's something I'm meaning to do, and I'll kind of cover that. But I think this is really what we can expect to see over this summer for sure, because they always try to pull this over the summer. There's always some crazy thing over the summer when it's hot, when people are already wily and all that. So that's Sean Strickland just talking about getting kicked out. I thought this was interesting.
Sean Strickland got banned from the White House.
We'll just listen to a little bit.
Did you see that Sean Strickland got banned from the White House for talking about Israel?
I'm not surprised at all. I mean, freedom of speech is what really makes this country great. And when you can't criticize a foreign nation, come on, man. We ought to be able to criticize our own nation, let alone a foreign nation. In fact, that's the only nation you're not allowed to criticize. So something's going to change, because evil empires don't last forever. There's always a rebellion. You ever seen Star Wars? That's what's going to happen, bro. Darth Vader's going to get took down.
So, you can really see that people have had it with this Israel stuff, and I wonder if this is that summer where it reaches a peak, or if they're able to stretch this out for a bit longer. And I think that pretty much covers it. This is interesting. The Freedom Ship, $16 billion mile-long ship capable of carrying 80,000 people. And these are just the plans for it. It's not built yet. The Freedom Ship would be home to about 50,000 people with space for 10,000 tourists, 20,000 crew members. So yeah, and like people can like live on this ship too. Envisioned as a permanently mobile city at sea designed for long-term residence rather than short-term travel, the company says. And there's a company, Freedom Cruise International, that's really looking at this. It would go around the world every 2 to 3 years. So that's interesting. And then a lot of these are game releases I won't really cover right now. This is the Trump verifying the phone call with
Said, "Are you
Netanyahu.
effing crazy?" Had a phone call with Bibi Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, in which you were angry with him. You said, "Are you effing crazy? What are you effing doing? I helped you stay out of jail." Is that true? Did you speak to him in those terms?
I did. I wouldn't say angry. I was a little bit perturbed at his constantly fighting with Lebanon. You know, at some point I said, Bibi, we got to stop this. We got to stop it. But I have a very good relationship. We've done well together. He always says, we could never have done it, but everybody knows that we could have never done it without the United States. But I've worked very well together. I like Bibi a lot, and I've worked very well with him. We had I'm a wartime president. He's a wartime prime minister. Very important part of the world, and I think we've done,
So that's like interesting stuff. Who knows if it's all theater though? Yeah, and I think that really covers the news for this week. That gaming news was the earlier stuff. Here we go. Frontier Airlines flight San Juan to Chicago. Dude tries to eat himself out of the emergency exit mid-flight. Passengers had to dogpile on him and restrain him. Plane was diverted to Miami. This gets into that Uranus and Gemini stuff, guys, with aviation events just happening and really more and more of them occurring. We had Iran launch some more stuff at Kuwait back on early this week on June 2nd. People are saying this is like the Antichrist that's already among us. I know he's a descendant of Muhammad after I did some research, and so he usually always gets this kind of reception, but kind of just interesting, you know. The missing U.S. nuclear researcher found dead at 1 year after disappearing, and I'm forgetting what is this Reza? I forget who this one is. I've got oh, here we go. What's her name? Cassius, Melissa Cassius. So they found her body. Prominent German LGBTQ activist and drag queen Mario Olazinski arrested on child porn charges. I don't want to get like flagged. Like I said that word earlier, but not with child in front of it. And yeah, that's just, I find this connection between all this like extra stuff with the LGBT community and this, like you're seeing it time and time again, there's this connection to it with child abuse. And I think it's, there needs to be a gay person like myself, you know, who's willing to actually say that too and not be like, well, we need to protect the community and all these things. It's like, well, we need to actually have honest conversations about what's going on. And I've seen a connection between it. So worth mentioning. Aaron Brockovich launched a website on AI stuff. That was really interesting. And just all the, and you know, everyone's heard of the movie Aaron Brockovich, so they know that she's a very big environmentalist, and so the environmental impact that the AI centers are having. So there's a website that Aaron Brockovich has. Feel free to Google that. Yep. Okay. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Oh. Yeah, that's really it. So this is the last one I'll go over, just some of my bookmarks, and then we'll just take a look at the feed for a second. Oh wait, it was right here. So we've got this up here, and this gets into what I'm talking about, guys. Okay, this is one of the complaints that I have with the black community here, and when I say this, like, it should go without saying, I'm not talking about every black person. Like, literally, I'm black too. I'm black, I'm white, I'm Native American, you know, but like, this is something that we need to like be aware of, is this lack of emotional regulation. Now, I suspect it's because of the lack of father figures, a lot of that, you know, like single mother households and stuff like that. And I come from a single mother household too. But, you know, one of the things I had to realize, and my mom is great, and she taught me emotional regulation to a certain extent. I'm not going to take that away from her or anything, but what I will say is there is a certain level of emotional regulation I had to teach myself as a man, okay, and when I was young, and I caught that early, thank God, and was able to do that. But a lot of people don't know how to just do that themselves, how to self-regulate their emotions, and this is where you can see it here, okay, off of I think is a political disagreement. This is over in the UK, and this guy just goes and goes and goes.
Or what?
20 times more likely to commit sexual offences than
the Brits?
Yeah, native Brits.
The Brits that colonized the whole world, you mean? That raped and pillaged the whole world to get the power that they have?
The Brits, yeah.
Yeah, the Brits that did that?
Yeah.
And you guys have the audacity to say that the Afghans and Somalis did what?
Notice the Africa t-shirt too. Now, I'm not saying like you're not allowed to be proud of your heritage or anything like that, but you can see that like when it becomes such a part of your identity, your race, I think this is where you get a lot of problems. There's like a healthy way for it to be a part of your identity, and when it becomes your whole identity. And I see much more in the black community than in the white community, the race becoming a whole part of the identity. And so this kind of is, you know, it's like a facsimile right here.
It's not audacity, it's just a fact.
Is it not a fact? Is it not a fact that y'all colonized the world through rape, murder, and pillaging? Right or wrong?
That was true, yeah.
All right, then. So what are you talking about?
British Empire.
So what are you talking about then?
Hey,
how dare you? How dare you?
Why are you shouting?
What are you? Because you're. That's why. How dare you? You're talking facts? Let's talk facts.
Spitting in my
Let's
face.
talk. So do something about it. Do something about it,
journalist,
Brit.
my friend. I'm here
Do something about it, Brit.
I'm here to ask questions.
How'd you get into this country? What are you talking about?
I'm here.
How dare you?
Why are you getting?
And notice this right here. Notice this Jew over here just egging it on, just in his element, by the way, I have to say.
So angry.
Because you're a piece of you're a liar.
You know you're
a liar. You're a liar.
Would you like me to show you the
You're a
government
liar.
data?
Bro, I just
I'm not
asked
shaking.
you.
I'm not shaking.
I just asked you what did the Brits do to have the power they have? Answer that question. Answer that question. Answer that question. How did the Brits get their power?
Can you stop spitting in my face? What was the question? Why are you shaking? Why are you getting so angry?
Because drone is going, I'm holding everything back not to break your jaw.
Well, you can do it. You would get arrested.
I don't give a bro.
You get arrested.
I don't give a
This doesn't make you argue.
And see, this is like where this really just gets into my point here is like, okay, so you can see the lack of emotional regulation, okay? And then literally he says it himself, he's holding everything back not to break his jaw. So immediately you're wanting to jump to being violent. This is just the trend that you're seeing within the community, like this jump to be extremely violent, you know, oh, like because this person's a racist, I have the right to be violent. And I'm not saying that this guy is even being a racist here. He's just like literally just, oh, this is in New Jersey, okay, but the guy is like British, okay. I was gonna say, because I'm like, why is this guy British? But yeah, but yeah, like you're just seeing that, like, oh my goodness, like they just lose control. They want to get violent. They think they're justified in their violence because like someone is quote unquote racist, and then it's like on a case-by-case basis, whoever you ask what they consider to be racism in itself, it's just ridiculous here. And you know that if there wasn't, that he would have already started throwing hands if there weren't people around, and he knew there wouldn't be some type of repercussion. And a lot of times that doesn't even stop them, like, because he's just like, oh, I don't even like give a fuck, like, I'll go to jail for it. And like this is like the problem that we're seeing here. And so I thought this was like a little bit of a funny thing because this is a response to that. Urban Dictionary, black looping, the act of continuously repeating a phrase or word endlessly, sometimes referred to as rage repeating, as outrage caused a breakdown of rational thought and speech, often accompanied by the looper clapping hands while speaking. And then it gives examples. I didn't do nothing. I didn't do nothing. I didn't do nothing. Like all this, y'all racist, y'all racist, y'all racist, all that. But he goes on in that to just like keep repeating himself and yelling and repeating himself. And it is like a breakdown of rational thought and speech. And so this is just something, I guess I got to say, is just something to be on the lookout for, because it's just ridiculous. If you have no emotional control, this is exactly what's going to start to happen. When you see something like that, and so people need to monitor their time on social media if they can't handle it. Like if you if you can't handle the heat, get out of the kitchen kind of mentality. Like, what are you doing on social media if it makes you this mad to where you're going on real life and doing these kind of things? So we'll kind of see what's going on. Oh, hey, the person I was talking about, Karlin Boroshenko. So her hair usually isn't like this. She's wearing like a wig, but she got her wig colored so she could blend in with the leftists, and she goes undercover to these queer activist events. And an important thing to differentiate when we're talking about queer activism and queer activism events and stuff like that, there's what you would call queer Marxism. This is where the term queer comes from. And queer, all it means is that you're not adhering to the gender binary and to gender norms. It does not mean gay. You can go ahead and type into Google right now, can you be straight and be queer? And it will tell you, yes, you can be. And so my point is proven when I say this stuff. Okay, I know that most people understand queer to mean gay. It is not what it means. Queer is a far left political ideology, plain and simple. And I really try to get that out there to people so they know these things. And so this is where you have the queer lexicon coming in here. And if you trace this back to where queer started being used as a term, it really had to deal with queer Marxism and its integration into the left wing and the gay rights movement, because they integrated into the gay rights movement because by integrating into the gay rights movement, they can push their agenda, which is abolishing the gender binary. Now, this is not about getting rid of men and women on a like genital level or, you know, like on a biological level. It's about getting rid of the idea and the gender norms behind men and women. So very, very important. And I learned all this through Karlin Boroshenko. She has amazing work, guys. So check her out, Karlin Boroshenko. Let's see. Oh, yeah, Alien Isolation 2. That's just me as a gamer. Let's see what else we got going on here. Mysterious triangle jet caught making sharp turns over Area 51. Some say it's America's new F-47 fighter. Never seen in public until now. See, I'm just seeing this for the first time, and I'm like, what's going to happen? Well, the moon is conjunct Pluto here, so maybe this is our little event here. We get a bit of an unveiling. I wasn't sure if it'd be more UFO, alien drop, something like that, but we keep seeing that with moon conjunct Pluto, and I think we're going to continue to see this kind of stuff until whatever the disclosure is every time that the moon conjuncts Pluto, and when it is also in that opposition to Leo too, because those were when we saw the first two drops, which I did. I didn't predict the drop of the first time the moon was conjunct Pluto, but I did predict the opposition to it. And then that's been kind of my standing prediction, is something around the UFO stuff every single time we get that moon conjunct Pluto, or even just at the very least in the same sign, which I know it's still in Aquarius. This is 10 hours ago. Breaking. CIA official John Kiriakou says Israel is allowed to spy on the United States, while the United States is not allowed to spy on Israel, which is a political decision made at the White House. Of course. Protester screams Erica Kirk protects PDF files during the opening of the TPUSA Women's Leadership Summit.
Withstands all.
All right, so this is yesterday for Marjorie Taylor Greene. So under full Republican control, the Republican-controlled Senate can't pass the Save America Act for election integrity. The House just passed a bill giving another $9 billion to Ukraine. Republicans are planning to merge our military with Israel's military, while Trump has us in another foreign war that's costing $2 billion a day and has driven gas over $4.50 more expensive in some places, especially here too. I think it was like $4.89 average here over in Las Vegas, Nevada, where I'm at, and you know, thank God I'm able to get it down to $4.12 when I went and filled up with using my like rewards points at my grocery store and stuff. But still, it's like crazy. And not a single person has been held accountable for the Epstein files. Yep. And I think that's about where we'll wrap it up here. This is interesting. Miami Mall incident, alien incident. Someone put together an AI thing of the eyewitness testimonies. Interesting. Yeah, true that. Okay, what do we got going on here? So yeah, I'll go ahead and switch here, guys. Yeah, and I think I'll just close out saying, we're at this point where hopefully we've transcended this left-right thing. Hopefully the discussions that I had today on race don't get people to be like, oh, he's disconnected, oh, he's this, he's that, or he must be on the right wing, he must be like this or on that, or no, like I'm a political centrist. But what's important is that we're able to really just have honest conversations about these things, and how are we identifying with these things too. If you want to really bring the astrology into it, we have Saturn in Aries here, and what that's going to deal with, at least on the personal level, especially with people that are dealing with these Neptunian issues that deal with like what ideology am I connecting to, what ideology is holding me back, and all that stuff. That's more the Neptunian issues are still lingering around. Of course, we have the North Node that's still in Pisces too. When it moves over, I think this is where we start to get this race tension heating up, and people are going to be forced to address these ideologies. But going back to that Saturn in Aries, Aries deals with the individual, okay? Aries deals with the identification of the individual, the identification of things. And Saturn is that limiter too. It can be the limiter. It constricts. It does these things. And so how am I, the reading you can get from that is, how am I allowing myself to limit myself, based on these ideologies with that North Node in Pisces, based on the ideologies that I hold. And hopefully, I think a lot of people are going to break free of those things. But this is a part of me having these discussions, really, is so that we can break free from the ideologies that hold us back. And I bring up the Black community as an example because I think once Black people break free of the ideologies that hold them back, whether it's voting blue, no matter who, no matter when they don't do anything for the Black community, and I'm not even saying vote right as a situation to that, but the overarching thing I'm coming to is like, once Black people can break free of the things that are limiting them from advancing in society as a group, because I'm not saying there aren't successful Black people or anything like that. I know plenty of them, but what I am saying is as a group, once they can break free of that, then we're going to truly see growth and almost you can say a renaissance in the Black community. And so that's what I'm really hoping for. Like personally, I only bring these things up because it feels like it can help. I don't know who it can help, but just hopefully it can help. Because ultimately, if you really want to be honest, I kind of just don't. It's the same thing with the gay community too. I just don't mess with the gay community or the Black community that often because it's like more trouble than it's worth. There's always something when I come around there, like, well, some violence that's gonna pop off. And it's been proven time and time again in my life. I go around the Black community, there's some violence that pops off. I go around the gay community, everyone is acting so happy, but deep down they're sad. Deep down they don't actually have high self-worth. These are the themes, and so these are just communities that I don't mess with, at least the general mainstream community of these. Like, obviously I have plenty of gay friends, got plenty of Black friends, but I'm just saying, like, this is not, I try to distance myself from it. So I'm not saying this from a person who's like, oh, I'm so involved in this community or that community. It's just like from someone who is on the outside looking in on these communities, it's very easy for me to identify, because I'm not identifying with it, to identify what the problems are and how we're going to move forward and actually have a better cohesive community that can integrate with the general community, with the overarching American community, because that's what America is about. People are like, oh, American is this, it's the country of immigrants. It's like, okay, well, sure, but immigrants, when America was first founded, came in waves. We weren't letting them all pour in all the time, first of all. But then also the whole idea of it being a country of immigrants is there was an overarching American culture that you assimilated to on some level. And what we've seen in these last few years coming in is not that. What we've seen in these last few years is people creating their own separate enclaves. And this is what stirs up racial tensions. And this is what the founding fathers knew, as well as why they structured it this way. And we've moved far from that, in terms of just the and really, I would say the nail in the coffin was like around the 70s and stuff when it stopped being the immigration in waves, and then it was actually just like, oh, let's just like let everyone in, and then that's where you started. And even still, people were assimilating though because we didn't have floods coming in, so we had that assimilation period. But just getting into all this because it's going to be very important in these coming few years. What are we identifying with? Like identifying, first of all, what you're identifying with, and then making sure that you're doing it in a healthy way so you're not able to be taken advantage of, because every psyop that you can think of is going to be pushed against us to try to divide us as people. And so being able to have these conversations and not be emotional about them, or at least being able to be rational about them, is going to be key to your happiness coming in these next few years, especially with all the mental chatter that's going to come in, the restructuring of the nervous system that we've already currently underwent, and we're going to be undergoing in these waves here year by year. So very important, and just to be ready for all these things and to have the tools at your disposal to navigate this new world that we're moving into with ease and with grace, and with also some self-respect and some dignity. So I hope everyone's enjoyed the news today, and I'm gonna peace out of here, go get some food because I haven't eaten today yet. I am fasting right now, and it's time to eat. But I hope you got some type of value out of this, and take it easy.